So the guys getting ready for the start of this Eastern Creek round of the Australian GT Championship, thanks to Comply Space. And Luke West joins me in commentary as we take a look at the grid. A couple of magnificent Aston Martins. We'll also be joined by Christian DeGostin to give us a driver perspective in all of this. And Luke West, we are set with an enormous field in a revamped, rejigged and ready to rock GT Championship.
It's Wade, really a David and Goliath battle here. Look at the little Lotus there on the left-hand side, and it's the big Aston Martin V12 6-litre of John Caius that will take the lead. First lap, first corner.
Certainly looks like a James Bond film as they all head into turn one. There's exotic marks. Caius looking for his first ever round or race win in that magnificent number 59. Have a look at Lucas in the Lotus at the moment. Luke, this thing is flying.
Oh, a little bit of argy-bargy there. So Warren Luff, the driver standards observer, will be watching these guys very carefully. For the end result, Lucas into the lead.
Yes, the Lotus is leading. Now, Christian DeGostin, this begs the question, where is the Lotus going to have it on the magnificent Aston Martin behind?
Well, Wade, I think the biggest advantage is that the Lotus, being such a light little car, will be very, very easy on its tyres and will be actually get away from the bigger cars early on and actually leave the bigger cars to catch them later in the race.
So meantime, we've got a Lotus versus Aston Martin up front in first and second there, and another battle between the two British marks for third and fourth. That is Hackett and Bargwanna.
Remarkable how many Lamborghinis we have in the GT Championship. They're just such an incredible machine. Two of them running right there together. Lily in the Laminex Lambo and Eddie in the ex-Bryce Washington car. They're just such a great looking car. What's the toughest part of this circuit from a driver's perspective, Christian?
Really getting onto the straight where they are coming onto now, it really deems your top speed going into turn one, so you need a nice smooth run, keeping the car nice and flat. You don't want any understeer or oversteer coming onto there, getting all the power down, keeping the car nice and square, getting a good top speed into turn one.
Let's see if we can get that Aston Martin hooked up and close the gap to the leader, Lucas.
Well, Comply Space replay here. This is the onboard camera right now of Ross Lilly, the Lamborghini Gallardo. Look how frantic it is getting into one. And the Lotus right to the outside, scooting up the inside there as well. Wow, big run from Chulin as we work their way through the GT Championship. Exciting times for it ahead, Luke, now expanding to include the GT Challenge and GT Production.
Yeah, three-class structure relaunched this weekend, and the competitors have come out in force. Big field, albeit we did lose David Stevens yesterday in a practice crash, but never mind. He's awaiting papal visit as the sign on that crashed 430 in the garage.
There is the Lotus scooting through. You can see Eddie in that magnificent Lamborghini with Lily in behind and Chulin in the Ferrari. Tell you what, this little Lotus is doing the biz, half the weight of the Aston Martin behind it.
Yeah, it's the bigger cars now with a bit of temperature in their tyres should be coming up to getting up to speed of the smaller cars. They might be able to start tracking them down coming to the later stage of the race, but those little Lotuses, boy, they've got some speed. They corner well, they accelerate well, and they're not shy of any speed in a straight line whatsoever. I'm really impressed.
On board now with Ross Lilly. So the V10 engine Gallardo, they're 5 litres, so all sorts of engine and body configurations here in the Australian GT Championship. Whoa, there he goes, Mark Eddy. Has a big chance there in that white and orange Lamborghini to be championship leader at the end of this race meeting. Hooking the car up now. Has he got the pace to go down the inside of Scott Bargwanna? No, decides this lap at least that discretion is the better part of valor.
Lily, we ride on board in the Comply Space onboard, showing the rear angle here of Eddie's Lamborghini. Enormous performance under brakes. Look out. Well, big problems there for the Lotus. They were all over it. That's actually a really difficult corner, Christian, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very undeceptive to the eye here, but when you actually go into that corner, it's quite blind, and there's a massive off-camber. As you exit the corner, the car just wants to naturally step sideways before we turn into where we are, where the car's going up there now, and then blind going downhill into the next right-hander.
Obviously a major issue there for Scott Bargwanna. Something's happened inside the cockpit of that Lotus. For some reason, the engine's turned off or he's missed it. gear or unable to select a gear there, but looks as though that little Blue Lotus back going under full steam now.
South Aussie Graham Cook having a pretty solid run, and his first run with the championship in the GT Challenge section of the championship. You've also got Mark Crashos, Greg Ward, Richard Kimber, James Burke, Anthony Caceres, Nick O'Halloran, and of course Cookie, as we spoke of in the Koala Furniture Race Moves entry. Well, look at this. Prior to this particular event, there was only one of these magnificent cars in the country. Now we've got two of them within 10 metres of each other. Big lose then from Caius, Luke.
Yeah, Caius there. His car is the second one on screen at the moment. He's got the yellow trim on it. Peter Hackett able to get around in the 7 machine. Of course, it's number 7. 007 James Bond. What other number would you have on it?
Christian, Peter Hackett would be calling on all of his experience with this car. It's largely untested. As we take a look back here at the Comply Space replay, caution there, but Hackett really working hard here.
Yeah, seems Peter's still probably struggling with a bit of setup. I know these guys only had one real test session at Phillip Island in the rain, and the car looks very nervous coming into the corners. Probably a little bit of a spring rate thing that he'll probably get on top of by the end of the weekend. But I look at that little yellow Lotus. That's just in a field of its own. It's just flying, holding its head well above water with all the bigger cars, and they're not making any inroads on him whatsoever.
Bear in mind, gents, that the Lotus is yet to win a race. Meantime, we go down to the GT Challenge class. There's Graham Cook in the yellow Porsche there. So this is a class debuting this weekend for some of the older cars that are around, and not to GT3 spec, but some handsome devices there and some devilishly handsome race drivers really putting on a good show for the fans.
I'm pretty sure that Christian de Gostin and many other race car drivers would love to get behind the wheel of those older cars, because they're still absolutely exotic in their own way. We just saw Caceres, the Mr. Limousine entry, charging very hard as well. And there is the number 10 of Mark Crashos. Rather unfortunate name when you're coming into motor racing. These cars handling this circuit very well. What is this part of Eastern Creek like, Christian?
It's all about setup here, and cars will, especially on a more of a worn tyre, the car really is subject to understeer and oversteer. But coming under the bridge there, it's quite blind coming into the turn 13. It's a very slow double apex corner, which is all about getting into there nice and slow and trying to not get too much oversteer on the exit, getting a nice run up into the last corner before the main straight, which you tiptoe into here and get a real good run out to get onto the main straight where all your speed's really important.
Now the battle on. So with that incident involving Scott Barguana, he's fallen into the clutches of John Tulin and the Ferrari 430. Tulin now going up a position.
Very tall man, certainly very determined as well. That's where the Lotus is so good. Worldwide, the reputation for handling is what people know Lotus is for. Tulin nearly turned in, but there was a little red and blue rocket ship that was going to prevent that. A lot of debuts here this weekend from a championship point of view. Ted Hughlin, first race for him in the brand new Lamborghini Gallardo. Peter Hackett, of course, in the Aston Martin. Scott Barguana we spoke of before. Richard Kimber and Kim Burke, and also Nick O'Halloran. So plenty of new faces in this championship as it continues to expand.
There's the little Lotus, this time an exige of Angelo Lazarus. He's a dentist from Sydney, and he's in amongst a mix of various configuration 996 Porsches there, and that is the machine of Kimber, number 58, another Sydney sider.
Look at how intense this is here. Christian, this is phenomenal racing. I guess it's hard to concentrate on your own lines when it's so busy like that.
Yeah, what's standing out here is the parity of the class. Like, you've got how many mixes of cars there? 3 or 4 different manufacturers, all racing nose to tail, doing exactly the same lap times, and it's just really good to see from a race perspective. And look at the close racing here coming into turn 13, like guys are nose to tail, 6 or 7 laps into the race.
So Lazarus now, he's all over the back of Caceres. So we need to make the distinction that the Lazarus machine, it is a Lotus, but it is the Exige model, the 1.8 supercharged engine, as opposed to the 2-litre machine supercharged of our race leader Peter Lucas.
Mark Crashos has had a busy night. Unfortunately for him, had to repair a clutch well into the night, so very lucky for him to be out there. Some good hard work ensuing. Have a look at this racing here. Everybody right in the middle. The P-plate Ferrari, that would normally make you feel ill on the highway. Straight line. Look at the comparison here. Parity is doing very well. Everyone must be happy with the way that this has worked out. Christian, you'd have to feel pretty good about no matter what you were racing here.
Yeah, it all sort of is coming back to a bit of driver ability. Who's got their car set up and who's got a bigger set of brakes and a better set of tyres coming into the last stages of the race.
So Lazarus on one spot, and the next car that's going to try and pick off some of the Porsches is the Black Cooper's Ferrari there of Nick O'Halloran.
Yeah, the Marinello Motorsport entry. We take a look at your leader, Peter Lucas. The Urban Arrangement entry over Hackett and Team Aston Martin, the JMC Motorsports team. As we take a look there of Kimber. That's a great looking little Lotus. I just love the black wheels. It's got a real smart look to it. Just looking for the inside line, there was Kim Burke and the number 68 car, the PR Technology Racing entry. They make their way through. Isn't GT Challenge going off, Luke?
Certainly is. So Richard Kimber, the teammate to Kim Burke, they call them the Kim brothers for obvious reasons.
Just working their way through the top of Corporate Hill here at the moment. This is a particularly important corner here, Christian.
Yeah, it's very, very easy to nip up a tyre coming into here because the track naturally runs off camber but then rolls on camber. But then coming out of here, it's very, very, very easy to get the car sideways if you step on the power far too early. And, of course, you start doing that through the course of the race and you're just going to chew your tyres up unnecessarily.
Isn't the GT Championship wonderful from the point of view of the different configurations of the cars? As we see there, Lazarus get up, picks off one more, the Graham Cook Porsche. So we have a gaggle of boxer engine Porsches there, 3.6 litre sixes, and we go to a V12 Aston Martin. The Lambo, remember, is a V10 and an 8-cylinder car, the V8 for the Ferrari 430. So 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12 cylinders.
Christian de Gossen just noticing the way that the Aston Martin is currently handling.
Yeah, very, very floaty in the front end there. Looks fairly heavily oversprung in the front. It's just Peter Hackett having a horrible time trying to keep it onto the corner there, whereas you find the little nimble Lotus just gets right onto the apex and off the apex as fast as anyone else I've seen all day. But I think, as you see the later stages of the race now, that the Lotus is still holding its own. It's an amazing little car for this later stage in the race. But now it's getting hunted down by Peter Hackett. Headlights on and blazing coming into turn one, but still not that much difference in top end speed, which is just really good to see from the little car. But as it looked very timid going into turn one there, Peter Hackett, but under brakes, it should just maul the little car in.
Peter Lucas would be more than happy to see the last lap have a go at Hackett, really going in late under brakes there. He hasn't really lost too much, and the question now is, can Peter Lucas in the yellow Lotus Elise hang on for 3/4 of a lap?
Just to state the obvious, Peter Hackett hates second place. Just in case you were wondering, the way he stepped her in extra hard with 1 lap to go. It is an amazing looking car, but how about this Jesus entry? It is flying at the moment. The little Lotus with only about half a lap to go. Luke, this is going to be a dogfight to the end.
It goes better on Sunday, I've noticed.
Absolutely. You just see that magnificent Hackett Aston Martin running over the top, the JMC Motorsport team. Not long left. Where's he going to make the pass, Christian? He's got to hurry.
If he keeps it really nice and tidy going into the last turn, he might be able to get a run onto the straight. But that little Lotus is nice and neat, and it's like it's not stepping out. His tyres seem to be well and truly preserved for the race. But I think Peters needs to be a little bit closer than this if he's going to make a lunge on the last lap.
Lucas is just 1 corner away now from his first ever race victory. It looks as though he's going to be able to do what the Lotus factory in GT competition hasn't yet been able to do and score a big victory.
Checkered flag at the ready. What a drive from Lucas. The Lotus gets the win. Handy performance. First time out of the box for the Aston Martin of Hackett. Third is John Caius. Good job there as well. Mark Eddy is fourth in the Lamborghini. Back to Lilly, Barguana, Chulin and Lazarus rounding out the top 8.